Are you ready for a story of Frog and Toad? Are you ready for a story of Frog and Toad? Here comes a story about Frog and Toad. Hello, boys and girls. Thank you for watching this video. We're going to listen to the third story in Frog and Toad Are Friends. And this third story is called A Lost Button. Are your ears wide open? Are you listening? Get yourself nice and comfortable. Sit back and relax. Here we go. Frog and Toad, A Lost Button. Frog and Toad went for a long walk. They walked across a large meadow. They walked in the woods. They walked along the river. At last they went back home to Toad's house. "Oh, drat," said Toad. "Not only do my feet hurt, but I have lost one of the buttons on my jacket." Can you see that? Do you see the buttons on his jacket, boys and girls? Boop, boop. There's one missing. One of his buttons has gone missing. "Don't worry," said Frog. "We will go back to all the places where we walked, and soon we will find your button." They walked back to the large meadow. They began to look for the button in the tall grass. "Here is your button!" cried Frog. "That is not my button," said Toad. "That button is black. My button was white." Toad put the black button in his pocket. Want to see? That's the button that Frog found. But it's not Toad's button, is it? Not his button, but he put it in his pocket anyway. Let's see what happens next. Did you listen carefully to what color Toad said his button was? Was it white? Frog found a white button, but Toad said, "That's not my button. My button was..." We're listening. Black. That's right. His button is black. A sparrow flew down. "Excuse me," said the sparrow. "Did you lose a button? I found one." "That is not my button," said Toad. "That button has 2 holes. My button had 4 holes." But Toad, he put the button in his pocket anyway. The one with the 2 holes that the sparrow gave him. Want to see it? They went back to the woods and looked on the dark paths. "Here's your button," cried Frog. "That's not my button," cried Toad. "That button is small. My button was big." Toad put the button in his pocket anyway. Want to see the small button? There it is. Okay. A raccoon came out from behind a tree. I heard you were looking for a button, he said. Here is one that I just found. That is not my button, wailed Toad. He's starting to get kind of mad and grumpy. That button is square. My button was round. Toad put the square button in his pocket. There's the raccoon. Frog went back to the river. They looked for the button in the mud. Here's your button, said Frog. That is not my button, shouted Toad. Whew, that's kind of rude. That button is thin. My button was thick. Not thin, but thick. There they are in the mud by the river. Toad put the thin bucket in his pocket anyway, even though it wasn't his button. He was very angry. He jumped up and down, and he started to scream. The whole world is covered with buttons, and not one of them is mine. Silly Toad, look at him. He's really mad. He's frustrated, huh? Well, Toad ran back home. He slammed the door. And there, on the floor, guess what he found? He saw his white, four-holed, big, round, thick button. Said Toad. It was here all the time. Oh, what a lot of trouble I have made for Frog. Want to see the button? There it is on the floor. Now he feels kind of bad, doesn't he? Being so grumpy and everything. Getting angry. Toad looked at all the buttons out of his pocket. He took his sewing box out, and down from the shelf, Toad sewed all of those buttons all over his jacket. The next day, Toad gave his jacket to Frog. Frog thought that it was beautiful. He put it on and he jumped for joy. None of the buttons fell off. So Toad had sewed them on very, very well. Want to see? Okay. There he is, looking at all the buttons that were not the buttons to his jacket. Then he got his sewing box down and he sewed them on with needle and thread. You know how to sew too. We sew in school, don't we? Mm-hmm. And then he had a wonderful idea. Toad was so generous, he took off his jacket and he gave it to Frog, his friend. And what is he doing there, Frog? He's jumping. Jump, jump, jump. He's jumping for joy. That's pretty great. He's jumping for joy. And that, boys and girls, is the end of the story of A Lost Button. Did you notice something? I just noticed something. What's that? Did you see who's listening? They've been here the whole time, you think? toad hopped over to hear the story. Pretty funny, huh? Well, I'm really glad we could be together to listen to A Lost Button. And I brought some buttons to show you. Do you see this button? It's really big and thick. What shape is it? You think about that. What shape is this button? And how many holes does it have? Can you count the holes? And what shape are the holes? Think about it. Let's look at another button. Look at this one. Can you see that one? What color is it? What shape is it? And does it even have a hole? Oh, there's its hole. It's in the back. That's different, huh? Okay, let's take a look at another button. This button. How would you describe this button? What color is it? How many holes does it have? Is it big or is it little? Is it thick or is it thin? Do I have any other buttons? Here's one. Look at that one. This is a leather button. It's made out of leather. And it's kind of interesting. Look at that. It's got a hole in the back. Another kind of button. Boys and girls, I'd like you to go around your house and look for buttons. Maybe there are buttons in a sewing box that you could sew onto a piece of cloth. Maybe somebody in your family is missing a button and you could help sew another button back on. What do you think? Maybe you could just look around at the buttons, all the buttons on all the jackets in your closet. Well, these are just some ideas, okay? So go explore buttons and have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk tomorrow. And maybe we'll even read the next chapter in our story. I'll give you a hint about what it is about. It's called A Swim. You can be thinking about this story, A Swim, and maybe you have some ideas what's going to happen. Okay? See you tomorrow for our next chapter, A Swim. Bye, boys and girls, and thank you for listening. Good night. Goodbye. Ooh.